Hello friends, today we are going to talk about allergies, also known as hypersensitivity reactions. So let's begin. So let's learn what is an hypersensitivity reaction. So basically the term hypersensitivity means injurious consequences in a sensitized host following contact with a specific antigen. Okay, so we all know that we have our body has a defense system or an immune system which helps us fight against the infection. But what happens when this immune system fights against specific antigens or specific cells which need not be harmful for our body or not necessarily be harmful for our body? So that is nothing but your hypersensitivity reactions. Understood? Now let's begin with major histocompatibility complex. So what happens here is these cells have histocompatibility molecule in it, okay, which helps in binding peptide fragments of foreign proteins for presentation to appropriate antigen specific T cells. So what happens is these T cells first need to identify that these are the foreign bodies which needs to be destroyed or which requires destruction or these are harmful for the body. So this histocompatibility molecules, okay, help identify, okay, by binding with peptide fragments of foreign proteins. So they set the target for this specific T cells that these are the cells which need destruction or they can harm the body. Okay, now this major histocompatibility complex are divided into three categories: class 1, class 2 and class 3. Class 1 are expressed on all nucleated cells and platelets. Okay, lymphocytes carry receptors for class 1 major histocompatibility complex which binds to peptide derived from proteins, regulates the function of CD8 plus T cells which are also known as cytotoxic cells. Alright, which basically kills tumor cells or any virus infected cells. Class 2 are identified as B cells, okay, and CD4 plus cells which regulates the function of helper T cells, and class 3 are not used for identification of any antigens. Now let's begin with cells of immune system. So first we'll talk about T lymphocytes, which comprises of 60 to 70% of lymphocytes in peripheral blood. They are heterodimer composed of disulfide linked alpha and beta protein chains. Alright, they have CD3 plus T cell receptor complex expressed on their surface which recognizes the antigen. Okay, remember in MHC or major histocompatibility complex cells, when we studied about them, we understood that they get attached to the cells, right, of the foreign bodies, okay, with the help of peptide antigens, and these peptide antigens are basically recognized by these T lymphocytes, and that's how they come to know that these are the foreign cells which can harm our body. CD4 and CD8 are expressed on distinct T cell subsets and serve as a co-receptors. So CD4 plus T cells are basically helper cells. They secrete cytokines, okay, that help B cells produce antibodies and help macrophage to destroy phagocytes microbes. Okay, so basically CD4 plus T cells are helper cells which help B cells produce antibodies, okay, so that the microbes are killed or phagocytosis occurs. CD8 plus T cells secrete cytokines, okay, which play a major role in directly killing virus infected or tumor cells. That is why they are also known as cytotoxic T lymphocytes. Understood? Talking about B lymphocyte, they comprise of 10 to 20% of circulating peripheral lymphocyte population. Alright, and they recognize antigen by membrane bound antibody of the immunoglobulin M plus B cell receptor complex expressed on its surface. Alright, so immunoglobulin alpha and beta are attached to this B cell receptors and deliver intracellular biochemical signals after BCR recognition of antigen. And B cells have non-polymorphic molecules like complement receptors, Fc receptors, CD19, which are essential for B cell functions. Let's talk about dendritic cells and Langerhans cells. So dendritic cells are fine dendritic cytoplasmic process, okay, which are present in non-lymphoid organs, high level of class 2 MHC and T cell co-stimulatory molecules and functions to capture and present antigens to T cells, and they do not have any ability of phagocytosis. Langerhans cells, on other hand, are present within epidermis. Okay, they have high levels of class 2 MHC and they do not again have ability of phagocytosis. Talking about the immune cells, we spoke about T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, Langerhans cells and dendritic cells. Now let's talk about the natural killer cells, which forms the first line of defense. They are also known as null cells or non-B and non-T cells. They arise from the common lymphoid progenitor that gives rise to T and B lymphocytes. Alright, now these natural killer cells have surface markers like CD16 and CD56, which are widely used to identify natural killer cells. This CD16 basically represents Fc receptors for IgG, that is immunoglobulin G, and has ability to break down or lyse IgG coated target cells. Okay, and this phenomena is nothing but antibody dependent cytotoxicity. Natural killer cells also have immunoregulatory function, which is mediated by secretion of interferon gamma. Now let's continue talking about the immune cells, and we are going to talk about macrophages. They are required to process and present antigen to immunocomponent T cells. Okay, T cells cannot be activated by soluble antigens and is processed by macrophages in T cell mediated immunity. They also produce various cytokinins like interleukin 1, okay, TNF alpha, which are pro-inflammatory and fibrogenic. Let's talk about cytokines. Okay, they have pleiotropic effect, that is they act on many cells and they affect in three ways. First is autocrine effects, which suggests that they act on same cells that produce them. Then there is paracrine effects, that is they affect the other cells in their vicinity. And then there is endocrine effect, they affect many cells systemically. Alright, now that we have understood about the cells of immune system, let's learn about the disorders of immune system. There are 4 types of disorders that can occur in the immune system. First is hypersensitivity reaction, which we'll be talking about in detail. Another one is autoimmune disease. Then there is immunologic deficiency syndrome, and the last is amyloidosis. Now that we are going to talk about hypersensitivity reaction in detail, let's learn the classification first. So the Coombs and Gell in 1963 classified hypersensitivity into 4 types. First is the immediate hypersensitivity reaction, which is an again emergency, medical emergency. Okay. Second is antibody mediated hypersensitivity disorder, that is type 2. Type 3 is immune complex mediated hypersensitivity disorder, and type 4 is T cell mediated hypersensitivity disorder, that is also known as delayed hypersensitivity. So let's start learning this in detail. Let's talk about the type 1 hypersensitivity, that is immediate hypersensitivity. So immediate, it means that it occurs very rapidly, that is typically within minutes. Okay, so it's a tissue reaction that occurs rapidly after the interaction of antigen with Ig antibodies that is bound to the surface of mast cells in a sensitized host. So the host is already exposed to the allergen, and on the second time when the host is exposed to the same allergen again, the antibodies which were produced are released, resulting in the hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, now it can be anaphylactic or it can be atopic. Alright, now let's learn in detail how does it occur. Let's understand how type 1 reaction takes place. Okay, so the host had already come in contact with the allergen once. Alright, that time what happened was there was activation of T helper cells and B cells. Alright, now these cells ended up producing immunoglobulin E. This immunoglobulin E was further binded or was attached to the Fc receptors on mast cells. Alright, now there is a repeat exposure, that is, the host has again come in contact with the allergen. Alright, as soon as the exposure occurs, what happens is there is activation of mast cells. Alright, so there is release of these mediators that occur. Now these mediators can be vasoactive amines or lipid mediators, okay, which causes immediate reaction, or it could be cytokinins which will cause late reaction. Okay, so we all understood that when the first exposure occurred, the antibodies were already formed, correct? So the primary mediators are preformed contents of mast cell and basophilic granules that are merely released during the second exposure with the allergen. Okay, histamine is the important vasoactive amine in human anaphylaxis, formed by decarboxylation of histidine found in the granules of mast cell, basophils and in platelet. Okay, so when this is released in skin, it causes stimulation of sensory nerves. Other than that, burning and itching sensation, contraction of smooth muscles, increases capillary permeability, causing wheel effect, also causes vasodilation and hyper. Okay, that is a flare effect that is seen in the skin. Alright. So here we understand in the picture that as soon as the antigen comes in contact, what happens is there is degranulation which occurs. So the granule contains are histamine, protease and chemotactic factors. Alright, membrane phospholipids are also released like arachidonic acid, PAF. Okay, the arachidonic acid releases prostaglandins and leukotrienes. The prostaglandins causes immediate response like vasodilation, vascular leakage, smooth muscle spasms. Okay, whereas the leukotrienes results in late phase reaction like leukocyte infiltration, epithelial damage and bronchospasm. Now coming to the secondary mediators. Okay, first is prostaglandins and leukotrienes derived by different pathways from arachidonic acid, which is formed from a disturbed cell membrane of mast cells and other leukocytes. Alright, the prostaglandin affects secretion of mucus gland, platelet adhesion, permeability, and dilation of capillaries and the pain threshold. Alright, other than that, platelet activating factor, that is PAF, is released by basophils, which causes aggregation of platelets and releases vasoactive amines. Okay, now let's talk about anaphylaxis, meaning without protection. The term is coined by Richet in 1902. The antigen or haptens can induce anaphylaxis. Alright, so when there is initial contact sensitizes the immune system, leading to the priming of appropriate B or T lymphocyte, and this dose is known as sensitizing dose. Basically, when the host comes in contact with the allergen for the very first time, that is nothing but a sensitizing dose. Alright, and that is the time when the antibodies are produced and stored. So the next time the allergen comes in contact with the host or host comes in contact with the allergen, all right, the hypersensitivity reaction takes place or occurs, which is nothing but a shocking dose. All right, so the time interval between this sensitizing and shocking dose should be somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, for example, penicillin allergy, all right, or bee venom also can cause such type of allergic reactions. Now, what happens in this anaphylactic reaction is there can be itching of scalp and tongue, flushing of skin all over the body, difficulty in breathing due to bronchial spasm. I told you smooth muscle spasm occurs, right? Then there can be nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, blood in stool, acute hypotension, loss of consciousness, and in very unfortunate and severe cases, death also can occur because of an anaphylactic reaction. Let's talk about penicillin anaphylaxis. Hypersensitivity reactions are a major problem in the use of penicillin. True penicillin allergy is rare, with the estimated frequency of anaphylaxis at 1 to 5% per 10,000 cases of penicillin therapy. All forms of natural and semi synthetic penicillins can cause allergy, but it is more commonly seen when taken through injections rather than oral administration. Okay, and penicillin G is the most common drug implicated in drug allergy. Treatment for such anaphylactic reaction is giving adrenaline 0.5 ml, okay, subcutaneous or intramuscular, the dose being repeated up to a total of 2 ml over 15 minutes if necessary. Okay, corticosteroids like prednisone 1 mg per kg up to 50 mg orally once a day can be given, and antihistamines like cetirizine can be also given. Atopy, that is out of place, introduced by Koka in 1923, referring to naturally occurring familiar hypersensitivities of human beings. To provoke anaphylaxis, the allergen must be either injected or ingested. Okay, that it could be eaten or it could be given through injection, okay, for anaphylaxis to occur. Atopic sensitization is developed spontaneously following natural contact with atopins, and it is difficult to induce atopy artificially. All right, examples are asthma, hay fever, okay, allergens like inhalation of house dust can cause allergy, pollen allergy, food allergy can be seen, okay, and cutaneous anaphylaxis is due to contact of antigen with skin, so it will cause what, urticaria, skin rash. All right, and it also can cause angioedema. Now, for doctors, commonly encountered a latex allergy. Okay, because we wear latex gloves, sometimes we can have the latex allergy. Okay, and it is seen usually in the second year of glove use. Much of sensitization appears to have been by inhalation of glove powder. Okay, so it can cause urticaria, rhinitis, eyelid edema. Okay, which is the immediate manifestation of latex allergy. The important concept that latex allergy can induce clinical symptoms to specific fruits like kiwi fruit, avocado, tomatoes, and potatoes. Now, how will you find about the latex allergy? It's through a questionnaire. Okay, ask the patient if he had any history of or presence of atopy, including hay fever, food allergy, especially any reactions to banana, avocado, potato, tomato. Okay, or adult eczema or asthma. If he has undergone, if he or she has undergone any surgeries, okay, multiple surgeries or intraoperative event consistent with anaphylaxis has occurred, okay, or there is occupational history where there is too much of latex exposure. All right, so this will all help you in understanding whether the patient is experiencing any latex allergy or not. All right, cutaneous symptoms like hand dermatitis, eczema, urticaria, upper respiratory symptoms including nasal rhinorrhea, sneezing, lower respiratory symptoms like cough, wheeze, shortness of breath can also be seen in the latex allergy. Now let's begin with type 2 reaction, that is cytolytic and cytotoxic, okay, which is defined as a reaction by humoral antibodies that attack cell surface antigens on specific cell and tissues, causing lysis of these target cells. All right, and this reaction appears generally within 15 to 30 minutes after the exposure to antigen. Now let's understand its pathogenesis. Let's understand what is complement dependent reaction. So in a target cell, all right, the antigen ends up binding at the fragment antigen binding area of antibody. All right, once the antigen binds at the FAB area, all right, of a target cell, the antibody antigen complex is formed in that specific tissue. All right, which results in activation of this complement system, and because the complement system activates, it results in the process of phagocytosis. All right, and because of this process of phagocytosis, target cell destruction occurs. So that is all about complement dependent reaction. Now that we have spoken about complement dependent reaction, let's talk about antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. So, here these target cells are killed by non sensitizing cells. Okay, so the target cells are coated with low concentration of IgG antibodies. Okay, and are killed by non-sensitizing cells which have Fc receptors. So what happens is Fc receptors basically detects the IgG, okay, and causes cell lysis in this or breakdown of these target cells, okay, without causing any phagocytosis. Alright, so how target cells are killed? These target cells are basically coated with low concentration of IgG antibodies. Okay, so the non-sensitizing cells have Fc receptors, okay, which bind to these IgG antibodies and results in cell lysis without causing any phagocytosis. Understood? Now, coming to antibody mediated cellular function. So, these antibodies are directed against cell surface receptors, impair or dysregulate function without causing any cell injury or inflammation. Alright? Now we understood that in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction we had an anaphylactic reaction which was a medical emergency, right? Now in type 2 we understood how it occurs, the pathogenesis behind it, right? Now, the examples are autoimmune hemolytic anemia, where the erythrocytes are broken down, okay, or lysis of erythrocytes occur, resulting in anemia, hemolysis. Okay, other than that, autoimmune thrombocytopenic purpura is another example, okay, of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Pemphigus vulgaris, acute rheumatic fever, myasthenia gravis, Graves' disease, that is hyperthyroidism, pernicious anemia, are all examples of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. Got it? Now that we have understood about type 2 hypersensitivity reaction, let's learn about the type 3. Okay, so the major difference in type 2 and type 3 is in type 2 the target cells were understood by the body and the antibody antigen reaction took place, phagocytosis happened over there. But in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, here the antigen antibody complexes are formed in the circulation, okay, and may deposit in blood vessels leading to complement activation and acute inflammation. Okay, there the target cells were present and phagocytosis occurred or the target cells were broken down, okay, but here the whole antigen antibody complex are there itself in the blood vessels, okay, which result in complement activation and acute inflammation. All right, and these antigens may be exogenous antigens like microbial proteins or endogenous antigens like nucleoproteins. All right, so now let's move ahead and talk about the pathogenesis. Antigen antibody precipitate is formed, okay, which results in activation of complementary system. It releases inflammatory molecules resulting in vascular permeability and neutrophil infiltration. The leukocyte platelet thrombi are formed. It reduces blood supply and results in tissue necrosis. Alright, so what happened? The antigen antibody is complexes are formed within the blood supply itself, okay, within the circulation. It results in activation of complementary system, okay, which in turn releases inflammatory molecules. Now because inflammatory molecules are released, the vascular permeability increases, neutrophil infiltration also increases, okay, leukocyte platelet thrombi are formed, and because these thrombi are formed within the blood circulation within the vessels itself, it reduces blood supply to certain organs and it can cause tissue necrosis of that area. Got it? So that is all about the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction pathogenesis. Alright. The symptoms that are seen in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction could be fever, lymphadenopathy, splenomegaly, arthritis, endocarditis, glomerulonephritis, vascularitis, abdominal pain, urticarial rashes, nausea, vomiting, etc. Alright, now we understood the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction and an anaphylaxis reaction and autopsy, right? Type 2 had diseases like autoimmune hemolytic anemia, myasthenia gravis, Graves' disease. Alright, now let's move on and talk about type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. The examples for type 3 hypersensitivity reactions are systemic lupus erythematosus, alright, then reactive arthritis, serum sickness, Arthur's reaction. Okay, let's talk about T cell mediated hypersensitivity reaction, which is also known as type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, so several autoimmune disorders as well as pathologic reactions because of environmental chemicals or persistent microbes are known to be caused by these T cells. Alright, so the occurrence and significance of T lymphocyte mediated tissue injury have been increasingly appreciated as the methods for detecting and purifying these T cells from patient circulations are covered now, and the lesions have said to be improved because of this. Okay, so let's move on with the pathogenesis. Okay, let's understand the type 4 hypersensitivity reactions pathogenesis. Alright, so here the CD8 plus T cells basically detects this antigen. Alright, the antigen presenting cells further take up these antigens and it activates CD4 plus T cells. Alright, these antigens are presented to CD4 plus T cells. Alright, which what happens is activates macrophages and other immune response are evoked. Alright, which results in release of cytokines, interleukins, which causes tissue destruction along with the antigen. Coming to the few examples, see a tuberculin test, other than that for contact dermatitis, alright, or skin test, all these are one part of the delayed hypersensitivity reaction. Alright, so these tests are done to guess the or detect the allergen. Alright, other than that, few examples like multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes mellitus, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel syndrome, contact sensitivity, like any contact to any environmental chemicals can result in this kind of delayed hypersensitivity reaction. Alright, conducted for understanding the delayed hypersensitivity reaction is patch test. Okay, so patch test consists of controlled exposure of an area of skin to a small amount of tested allergen in a non-toxic concentration. Okay, the tested substances are applied on the skin of the back for over a period of 48 hours. Alright, the skin reaction like erythema and effusion, possibly papulovesicle, that is eczema reaction, is considered as a positive reaction for the patch test. Alright, so that's how you come to know that this is the allergen which has caused the disease or which has caused the problem in the past. Alright, like, share and subscribe, and please leave a comment. Thank you.